The world is watching the events unfolding in Syria and anxiously anticipating what comes next. In the last 24 hours, rebel forces taking control of the capital, Damascus, ousting longtime President Bashar al-Assad from power. Across the country, people seen celebrating in the streets. The Assad family had ruled Syria with an iron fist for 5 decades. Earlier today, President Biden calling the fall of Assad a fundamental act of justice, but saying this is also a moment of risk and uncertainty. The rebels who toppled Assad had previous links to al-Qaeda, and the U.S. is clearly concerned about ISIS taking advantage of the chaos. Hundreds of American troops are still serving in Syria, even carrying out dozens of airstrikes today. As for Assad, Russian state media reports he's now in Moscow, given asylum. Russia, a longtime backer of his regime. And tonight there is news on an American journalist kidnapped in Syria more than a decade ago. ABC's chief global affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz is standing by. But first, ABC's chief international correspondent James Longman leads us off from Beirut.
Tonight, history unfolding at lightning speed in the Middle East. Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad overthrown by rebel fighters. His presidential palace overrun. His people oppressed by decades of dictatorship, discovering his enormous wealth. The rebels declaring victory from the state TV studios, saying the city of Damascus has been liberated. The tyrant Bashar al-Assad has been toppled. Across the country, symbols of the Assad family regime defaced or destroyed. Jubilation and relief in the streets, celebrating a moment few could see coming less than 2 weeks ago. This man saying, it's been 13 years that we've been waiting for this day, and today is our day. The Islamist leader of the main rebel group, Abu Muhammad al-Golani, who cut ties with al-Qaeda years ago, is now projecting a more moderate image, speaking triumphantly at the historic Umayyad Mosque in the capital city, Damascus, saying, this victory, my brothers, is a new chapter in the history of the entire Islamic nation. It is a turning point for the region. Russia's foreign ministry now says Assad has stepped down as president of Syria and ordered a peaceful transfer of power. Russian state media reports he and his family are now in Moscow. Assad, who was in power for more than 24 years, oversaw the brutal crushing of the revolution against his regime through more than 13 years of civil war. The UN says more than 7 million Syrians are displaced within the country, with over 6 million more seeking refuge abroad. Russia, Iran and Hezbollah had helped him cling to power. But with those allies distracted in wars in Ukraine, Gaza and Lebanon, the rebels seized the opportunity. President Biden speaking this afternoon.
At long last, the Assad regime has fallen. This regime brutalized and tortured and killed literally hundreds of thousands of innocent Syrians. 900
U.S. troops are currently in the country as part of the fight against ISIS. Biden indicating that will continue.
We're clear-eyed about the fact that ISIS will try to take advantage of any vacuum to reestablish its capabilities and to create a safe haven. We will not let that happen.
Going on to say that the U.S. had conducted airstrikes against ISIS just today. In a Truth Social post Saturday, before Assad was toppled, President-elect Trump writing, this is not our fight. Let it play out. Do not get involved. Tonight is a night of real joy for millions of Syrians. It's also a time to remember the many, many loved ones who were killed by the Assad regime and their allies. It's also a time of real danger where hope may turn to violence. Whit?
James Longman for us, thank you. And for more on these fast-moving developments in Syria, let's bring in our chief global affairs correspondent, Martha Raddatz. Martha, what more are you learning about this rebel group that seized power, and what could this mean for the 900 U.S. troops still in Syria?
Well, with those 900 U.S. troops are in Syria specifically to keep after ISIS. And today's U.S. bombing of 75 ISIS targets is a reminder ISIS is still active. So the Pentagon says the U.S. forces will remain in Syria for now, and they feel they are safe. As for the rebel group now in charge in Syria, the U.S. listed the leader as a specially designated global terrorist. And even though he says he's now cut ties with al-Qaeda, this is not going to be a shining democracy. Whit?
Yeah, approach with caution appears to be the rule here. And President Biden was also asked today about missing American journalist Austin Tice, who disappeared back in 2012 near the Syrian capital. What's the latest on that?
Well, Tice was believed to be in the hands of the Assad regime. President Biden said today that believe he is alive and he is committed to returning Tice to his family, but at the same time acknowledging this is a moment of considerable risk and uncertainty. Whit?
and so much at stake. All right, Martha, thank you.